Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the KZ ZAT. This is KZ's latest offering. One of the latest offerings to be correct. A 1+8 hybrid this time, which would make it then the current hybrid king from KZ in terms of driver count at least, but not necessarily the best hybrid that they offer in my opinion. I was expecting and I had high hopes for the ZAT, to be honest. Firstly, because KZ has gotten us used over the past year and something to launches which are for the most part always quite entertaining. With exceptions here and there, but for the majority of the times, the IEMs that have been releasing have been IEMs which kind of are on off fine for the price. Some of them actually quite good for the price. Some of them very good for the price. And I can give you some examples. The PR1 Pro, for example, is one perfect example. The KZ ZVX and the DFI, which I've actually got over here, or another two examples. The AS24, a third example. So they've kind of gotten us used to having IEMs which are a departure from the previous models that KZ used to give us, or the majority of the previous models that KZ used to give us, where the ratio was most of them were not really anything special and one or two were okay, while now the majority of them were actually quite good, and then one or two are just a little bit bland. As for the ZAT, I'm not going to show you the box because it's basically the usual KZ box. This time around just a little bit better. Instead of being white, it's black, a little bit bigger, but it's basically the same thing always from KZ. This goes for anywhere between $80 and $90 depending on which vendor you're getting it from. As I said, it's a 1+8 hybrid. It's got the same basic configuration apart from the section handling the bass as the AS24. And what do I mean by that? It means that it's got the 29689 BAs for the mids, like the AS24 over here. It's got the 3019 as a mid-high IEM, also present in the in the AS24. It's got 31736 units for the highs, again also the same situation there in the AS24. The biggest difference then comes that the AS24 then uses a 22955 for the bass, a single unit, while this uses an 8mm driver. I mean, 8mm is fine, there's nothing wrong with an 8mm. In the HM20, for example, they use the 7mm and it's fantastic. Anyway, let's kind of position this and try and understand this. In its let me start by saying the following. In its base, I guess that the sound is fine, it's okay, it's acceptable. It's a sound which seems to be following a tendency that a lot of the KZ IEMs as of late have also been having, which is to have a post-pinna gain which is quite prominent. We're talking 12, 13 dB sometimes, and that's what happens here as well. So the post-pinna gain is quite emphasized. And what that does is that because there isn't enough bass energy coming from behind, if it was maybe a 10mm or a 12mm driver with the bass curve that is present in the graph that I'll show you, maybe it would balance things out. But because the bass is a little bit on the softer side as compared to what we have in mids and highs, what then this makes is that when you start pushing the volume, or if you're not careful with with what source you're using, it can get shouty. It can get a little bit too much with regards to certain instruments. Certain wind instruments, trumpets, saxes can sound just a little bit edgy. Female vocals can come across as well a little bit too, there's a lack of, that energy that is being given to the IEM is devoid of a certain amount of polish, so it actually becomes harsh. There are plenty of other IEMs which have that sort of pinna gain, but the way that just is implemented, it just comes together nicer. It just, I don't know, it's not as harsh, even though it's quite prominent, that energy. And in the ZAT, it's energetic, but something there was just just didn't hit the head on the nail, or rather the nail on the head. And then the other issue that I found with the ZAT is that it hasn't got much extension past 10K. So what we end up having is a sound which is kind of very mid-centric. It's got some bass to complement it, but the bass always feels like it's a step behind. And then, the extension up top past 10K, there isn't much in terms of twinkles and sparkles. So then that sensation of air, of space, of 3Dness is not really the ideal. Having said that, the bass that is present, although not the quantity that I would have preferred, this has got the tuning switches, and I've got the tuning switches for the bass turned up, because if the switches are off, then it's even more noticeable, that leanness in the bass. Forget about switching to or putting on switch number 3 and 4, which emphasizes the mids and the highs. Forget that, because that's just going to compound further this problem of being excessively energetic in the transition from mids to upper mids and highs. So it's a sound which is, I guess, acceptable, but not acceptable when we're talking about a 1+8 hybrid and an IEM which represents their ultimate in terms of hybrid configurations. Okay, this is supposed to be on par with the AS24, the two best IEMs, let's say, and let's not forget the planar, the PR1 Pro, or PR2 if you prefer the PR2. They are supposed to be the epitome, the best at what KZ can offer us. I've selected here a few IEMs, which some of them are past heroes, the case of the CCA CKX and the KZ ZAX. Others are more recent or still in the market, the HM20 from CCA, the ZAR from KZ, and then obviously here the Caster Harmony Edition and the DFI. I'm gonna try and be as straightforward and as frank as I can possibly be. The HM20, those that follow me know that I absolutely think this is one of the best IEMs that they have made, period. That 7mm driver used in there, which is an XUN driver, coupled to the six, it's actually 7 BAs, but 6 of them are the 50024Ss, and one is a 30019S. So we got 6 IEMs handling the mids, and a single for the highs. The combination that they've struck there is, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is perfect. It just sounds so good. I mean, I can't say enough how good the HM20 sounds. Some people thought it was too bass heavy. I never thought that. It's a 7mm driver. It might graph like it's got a ton of bass, and it does have sufficient bass, let's put it that way. It's got the bass, for example, that I would have liked to have seen in the Duo, the CCA Duo. If the CCA Duo had a bass more along the lines of that, I think the CCA Duo would have been a very, very successful IEM. Same thing goes for the Pianist. The 1+2, the CCA, very detailed in the mids and the highs, fantastic, very detailed, to a point where it sometimes is a little bit too much actually, because you feel then a little bit that BA timbreness, but it just doesn't have the bass to keep up. That there does it perfectly. The CKX is, let's say, you could say the precursor to that to a certain extent, 1+6. It's got the 30017s and the 3095s, so mids and highs, with the 10mm driver. Tiny IEM for the amount of stuff that is inside the tiny IEM. And if you put aside the energy there that it's got at 678K, which is a little bit pushing on the making it sound too fake, take that out of the equation, or you give it a break with regards to that, and I'll be honest with you, it gives the ZAT a good run for its money. It really does. It really does give the ZAT a really good run for its money. The ZAT does not outperform that, in my opinion. It doesn't. The HM20 for me just completely beats the ZAT. I'm just gonna say that outright. HM20 from CCA is a better IEM than the ZAT. End of story. And then we have the ZAX and the ZAR from KZ. The ZAX shared very much a similar setup as the HM20 to a certain extent. There was some similarities there. It just had extra a 3095, a 1+7, and a 10mm 10mm dynamic drive instead of a 7. And for me, if I have to just look at KZ, I forget now about the CCAs. For me, it is still the best hybrid that they have made. The best one. It's not perfect. Fair enough, it's not perfect. But I haven't seen another hybrid from KZ that has been able to strike that balance across the range as well. It's got nice, potent, I wouldn't say powerful, nice potent bass. It's full, it's got good cleanliness, good resolution, great mids. Fine, you can feel the BA timbre and this, okay, fine. But overall, a very, very nice IEM that again gives the ZAT hell. I honestly, if I had to choose between the two, I would choose that one. I'll be very frank. I would choose the ZAX. Okay. And then finally there the ZAR, which was, let's say the 1+7, the hybrid that was the top of the line hybrid just before the ZAT came out. And this, the ZAR is basically an HM20 just with a 10mm driver instead of a 7mm. And the mistake they made here in the ZAR, in my opinion, was they tuned the bass in the same energy level as in the HM20. But this is a 10mm driver, that's a 7. So what that made is for a completely totally overblown sound. It's too thick, it's way too thick. Somehow, I don't know what happened there, but they also were not able to tune the mids and the highs in such the same smooth manner as they were in the HM20. And I mean, I've got 3 HM20s. They all measured the same. So it's not that I have a fluke here that, oh, I got a special unit. No, I've got 3 HM20s. You know, I'm insane in that aspect. I do buy multiple IEMs. And they all graph the same, they all sound the same. So I can only assume that the quality control there is being pretty decent, okay? And in the ZAR, I would have thought that at least the mids and the highs would have been basically the same. But no, it's not as smooth as there. Coupled to the fact, but they're not bad. The mids and the highs by themselves are not bad. But for some reason, it just doesn't have the same extension, especially past 10K as on the HM20. And the bass just bloats everything up. So, you lose a lot of technicalities. You lose a lot of... It just makes for a very heavy sound. So that was basically one of the reasons why I also didn't really rate the ZAR very highly. I mean, if they had just tuned the bass down just a smidge, this would have been a killer IEM. Honestly, this would have been a killer. So it kind of basically falls in the same result as the ZAT. I really wouldn't know which of the two is the worst, to be honest with you. And by worst, I know I'm saying that's a strong word, but I struggle to say which one I would choose. Ultimately, I guess I would still go for the ZAR, if I'm totally honest, over the ZAT, because I mean, this is a big IEM, guys. Trust me, the ZAT is big. Okay, we're talking AS24 kind of size. All right, so it's a big IEM. Anyway, that's the ZAR. Okay, out of the way here as well. Oops, got tangled up here. Let me just get this untangled. There we go. Okay, that's the ZAR. And then I've got here the caster, the DFI, and the AS24. This is also going to be very simple. AS24 is just an outright better IEM, period. Better mids, better highs, vocals are better executed, better resolution, better detail, better in everything. Okay, I would have liked to have a little bit more of that warmness in the bass. Okay, it's a single 955. I guess they maybe opted for that instead of two for reasons of wanting to make it a more audiophile sounding all BA IEM. But it lacks that tonality there. But overall, it's a better IEM than this. As for the Caster, the Harmony Edition, and for the DFI, I'm going to be totally honest once more. I would choose these two over the ZAR, the ZAT, my apologies. I would. Why? Because, first of all, the price that they have, this offers nothing more. Especially here, when you consider the price of the Caster and what it's got. I mean, this thing plays really well. I mean, I'm not gonna get here into arguments and to conversations and to certain. Okay, sometimes I might not choose the absolute best words to describe something. Like, for example, recently now there was an issue with the Magic One. The Magic One is a unique IEM. Period. There isn't a single IEM in the market, BA, just one BA, that is capable of doing what the Magic One from Aful does. There isn't. Period. There isn't. The way they've tuned it makes for a very different sounding IEM. Okay, fine. It might be bland, it might be simple, it might not be as exciting. But let's not now go and compare it and say, oh no, I'm going to compare it to a full Performer 5 or a full Performer 8, or I'm going to compare it to whatever IEM. Honestly, if you want to be fair, you cannot compare it. Oh, but you should compare it because of the price. It costs $140. You can compare it with other IEMs of $140, $160. It's fair. Well, if you want to think of it that way, but the thing is, how many 1BAs do you have out there that do what that IEM does? None. That's the first one. And it might actually be the start of something new. Who knows? That's the truth. How many 1+4 do you have out there? You got plenty. So if you got plenty, there's more offer. The price has to come down. It has to be more competitive. I mean, guys, I'm sure you remember couple of years ago, Shozy 4 and 1.4, Theo Audio Legacy L4, L5, they were ridiculous money for the performance they give, especially when you consider, you compare them to what we get today. So this, okay, irrespective of all other factors, because the imaging, this for $15 is a unique IEM. It is a beast. It plays well. It plays really good. And this, in that aspect, outperforms the ZAT. End of story. Simple. No need yet to complicate things. It's got better bass. It's got a better mid execution. Yes, fair enough. There's also that crazy pinna gain that I've mentioned earlier. But because it's got the bass to back it up, it sounds nicer. It just doesn't showcase as much. Things don't shout. I mean, I don't have to worry about putting something like Piece of Me from Candace Springs. And on here, if I start pushing the volume, it bites me. That's the reality. It gets intense. Or Up and Up from Jeff Ryan, again, it gets intense. And with the Caster, the Harman, I can listen to it. Fantastic. No issues whatsoever. Here I have to control the volume. It's as simple as that. And the DFI, again, as well, I think it's just an overall better tuned IEM than this. They, in my opinion, this is my opinion, KZ should have taken this, okay, and either, one of two things, either tune it exactly like the HM20, tune it like that, use the switches so that you could get a tuning like that out of it. And if this sounded like the HM20, that would be fantastic, and you still have the switches to adjust it slightly, amazing. Or then, an alternative, is tune it again along the lines of either the Caster Harman or the DFI, the one with the switches. If you have switches and if you have this many drivers, at least make sure that it sounds the business, that it sounds the part. And when I have a single DD here, or when I have an IEM with two dual DD, and they are sounding and performing better than this, something here was just not on point. Something just missed the beat there. All right. Anyway, guys, I can't really recommend the ZAT. I'm sorry. I wish I could. I wish I could say, no, it's a good IEM. It's worthwhile having a listen. I am having said that, I am sure that there will be people that will enjoy it. But again, knowing KZ, I'm sure that they will improve and come up with something better soon enough. And it's a pity. Honestly, it's really a pity, because in terms of hybrids, the only worthwhile hybrids from KZ, or the ZAX, in my opinion, okay, or then the ZS10 Pro X, the one that was launched as well last year, if I believe, the OnePlus 4. Those two are still the only hybrids which I can really say, okay, they fine, they good, they play well, they nice. All right. If I go on to CCA, which basically again is KZ, HM20 is fantastic. I'll stand by that as long as I need to stand. HM20 is a fantastic IEM. Okay, and if I take and I go and fetch the Joy Audio, the Shine, or the one that more recently was launched, the OnePlus 4, they are, both of them are, they have their mojo, I guess. They are, I guess, overall superior to the ZAT. So there's just no honestly, there's nothing really positive that I can say about the ZAT that I can say no, it's worth it. It's, go out and try it out. I just can't say that. All right, guys, show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the KZ ZAT. I've got here the three graphs which basically represent either all the switches off, all the switches on, or then the setting which I basically used, which was the first two switches on and then the rest off, which kind of emphasizes just the bass. Let me just quickly show you each one individually so you can understand what's going on, and it's better. Okay, this is with all the switches off. Okay, fine. If you look at it, everything stays within 84, so like 60 B gain for the bass, really nice. But then you have a massive 84 to, you got a 10 dB gain here for the mids, which when you see the difference between this 4 dB, 5 dB almost difference between the mids and the bass, make for an IM which is just it's just too much. It's just too energetic, especially with certain instruments. It's just too much. It's not the fact that it's speaking at 3K or anything of the sort. No, this should have been at the level, for example, of what is at 4, 5, and so on. If it was like that, that'd be fine. And it needed a little bit more extra energy here. So, all right, so that's that. With all the switches on, you get a little bit of a bass boost, which is welcome. But then also, it further emphasizes that area there around 3K. Okay, and then also brings this area up here between 500 and 2, which just makes things sound, in my opinion, artificial. It just sounds wrong. Doesn't sound natural enough. So the setting I ended up using is this setting, okay, which is what? It has the emphasis of the bass that I wanted, while maintaining things as smooth as possible then in the upper mids and highs. So that difference that we have is reduced, so it doesn't, we don't feel that excessive pinna gain, after 1K being so intense that some of that harshness is always a very delicate word, is just not as present, okay? Or it's more controlled rather. Right, compared then to the IEMs that I selected, as I mentioned, I selected a few that I thought would make sense. So I'm going to just go through all of them, KZ ZAX, number 10 here. I've normalized everything at 500 Hertz, by the way. Same sort of bass, okay? Obviously, being a 10mm driver as opposed to an 8, obviously it's going to sound more. It's going to sound more intense, more there. Yes, okay, fine. So it's got this peak here, which is almost the same level, and a little bit even earlier. Fine, but because it's got this bass energy from behind, everything gets more toned down. Past that initial peak there, 2.2 2.3K, it drops, so it loses a little bit of that energy, and it basically what happens is that this whole area here in the upper mid just kind of evens out to be smoother. And then it's got decent enough extension into the treble, nice extension past the past 10K. This is the kind of extension I would have liked to have seen. Even if that meant, okay, you noticed more the BA timbre like you do, you know, honestly, I really wouldn't mind, because at least it would have some sparkle, it would have some sensation of air, which the ZAT just doesn't have. I can understand that what maybe was trying to be achieved was a non-BA timbre sound, but with the benefits of having BAs there. But at the same time, the technicalities that should be present are not present. Okay, so that's the ZAX compared to the ZAR, which is this one. The ZAR has just got way too much bass. I mean, the attempt was valid, but it's just too much bass. Too much bass. The bass should have been toned down significantly. No, and it's a pity. It's a pity because the mids and upper mids and treble were actually not badly done. They just get overpowered by the amount of bass that you have. Compared to the HM20, the CCA HM20, and let me just show you something here quickly. I just mentioned that the HM20 and the ZAR basically share the same components. The difference basically being the 10mm versus the 7mm. And the HM20's just got a much better executed mids, as you can see, mids, upper mids, and treble way more well executed, way more extension past 10K, way more. And the bass, although it seems like it's going to be a mess, it actually isn't as bloated or as bassy as it looks, because it sounds way less, so it evens out more, so you don't feel this kind of a V that you would think that it would be, that the mids are recessed. I didn't feel them to be as recessed as you would possibly think by looking at this graph. When I compare then the HM20 with the ZAT, honestly, there isn't really, in my opinion, there isn't really much of a comparison that I can do. Why? I'll tell you why. First of all, because the bass is a much better bass. It's more present. It's got rumble. And we're talking 7 and the ZAT is an 8mm. And then the way that the mids and the upper mids and the treble have been done, extension, much better. But across, it's also got this crazy peak here of the gain. It's fine. But because it's got this bass energy from behind, it helps camouflage any potential aggressiveness. So trumpets and saxes and so on, like I was mentioning earlier, they sound fine. They don't sound aggressive. Okay. So that's the HM20, the ZAR, and the ZAX. Just for the sake of comparison, like I said, I got the CKX from CCA as well, and this is the CKX. Very similar in terms of the bass and everything, and as well over here, and even the fact that it's got this 6-7K area here being quite emphasized. Honestly, the overall sound that comes out is at least I'm not going to say it's better, because maybe that's going to be a little bit too much, but it's just a more satisfying, more detailed, more engaging sound. And you could argue, across, you can always EQ the ZAT so that you can do away with some of that harshness, boost the bass a little bit, boost the past 10Ks. Okay, well, on the same tone, then I can also cut a little bit here, this extra energy that they've got over here on the CKX, cut it a little bit over there, and so comparing it stock to stock with no EQ, the CKX doesn't beat the ZAT, but the ZAT also doesn't beat the CKX. Okay, so that's the CKX out of the way, and then compared to the Castor, the Harmony Edition, which is number 6 over here. This is the Castor. I mean, I don't really think I need to say much. Very nice execution. You can see that the sort of mids that they went for the Castor is what they tried to do with the ZAT. Okay, they could have made it much smoother, Why didn't they? And there's more extension past 10k, and we have a 10mm driver, so everything just evens out nicer. It just sounds very, very engaging. The caster is a very nice sounding IEM. I mean, let's be honest about it. Compared to the DFI, my apologies, I actually thought I had it here, but I don't. But that's something that I can do very quickly. KZ DFI. Here we go. This one. Okay. Again, same situation as with the caster. Let me just align it here at 500 hertz. There we go. Very similar to the caster. Let me change the color. Make it red so it stands out. Very similar to the caster in terms of the bass and the mids. It's just the caster then has a little bit more extension up top. Okay, just a little bit extra extension. Well, it's two drivers, so I guess it should. But again, the caster, the DFI, superior, a better tuned IEM than the ZAT. And I mean, this is stock, nothing done to it. The only thing is the switches are in the up position, so I can get a little bit more bass out of it, which again doesn't sound as much as you think it is sounding by looking at the graph. And it sounds nice, it sounds good, it sounds engaging. Fantastic IEM, the DFI. And then finally the AS24. Okay, let me also make it in red so you guys can see it better. Take away the DFI. AS24. AS24, as I mentioned, it shares basically the same BAs as the ZAT, except for the bass. And it just sounds better. Okay, you feel a little bit of that BA timbre there, yes, but very resolving, loads of detail, plenty extension past 10k. So in terms of soundstage, imaging, detail retrieval, it just absolutely, in my opinion, obliterates the ZAT. It obliterates the ZAT. I wish I wasn't having to say these things about the ZAT because, like I said, I like KZ stuff. They, politics aside and issues that happen and all all of that aside, they actually do have nice IEMs for the value that they cost. They are nice IEMs. Some of them capable of trading blows with much more expensive IEMs, like for example, like I mentioned with the HM20. The HM20 for me keeps up with the 7 hertz legato easily. Oh, but the legato's got crazy bass and this. Okay, fine. It's got the crazy bass, but it doesn't have the mids and the highs to back it up. While the HM20 might not have the crazy bass of the legato, yes, but it's got a much more engaging and satisfying tune than the legato, and it also follows that being more bass heavy philosophy. So there you have it, guys. I hope I was able to explain and position well the ZAT for you guys, and I truly hope that KZ will do something to improve it, and whatever future hybrid we get as a top of the line hybrid is a better hybrid from them. Okay, anyway guys, you take care now. Bye bye. As always, don't forget, like and subscribe. Take care.